Hey guys, Molly here and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing my October wrap up. So for this month I only read 3 books and 2 were library books and 1 I currently own. So I don't have the library books with me, so I'm not going to be showing them. But yeah, so I again read 3 books in October. I had 0 5 stars, 1 4 stars, 2 3 stars, 0 2 stars, and 0 1 stars. And I read a total of 1,068 pages. So the first book I finished in October was 3 Little Words by Ashley Rhodes Couture. This was a memoir. This book takes place in Hillsborough County and some of South Carolina, and toward the end of the book it was, I think, set in a different county. I could be wrong. I don't remember exactly what city she got adopted and like her family lived in. But yeah, I thought this was pretty interesting. I gave this book 4 stars. I love to hear about her story and what she went through for the foster care system and all the different families that she went through as a little child, and how her personality changed and how she was not so open to different people and her adoptive parents, and she was struggling with that and everything. But I am glad that she did get a happy ending at the end of this book, which is good. So, yeah. And the next book I finished in October was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I gave this 3 stars. I had a couple of mixed feelings about this book. I felt like there was not enough action that was going on that I anticipated. Like, I anticipated that there was going to be a lot of action and a lot of, like, major stuff was going to be happening with, like, the rebellion and, like, the riots and protests and all that. But we only got, like, literally 1 scene of Star being in that stuff, which was really disappointing because I honestly was expecting a whole lot more from this book, and I didn't get my fulfillment of what I really wanted and what I really thought was going to happen. And I know that like there was a couple of things in the book that some of like the Star's family members and like other people were saying in this book toward white people. And I, as myself, like, when they were saying, hey, little white boy, or to Star's boyfriend, because Star's boyfriend is white, I find that rude. You can say, hey, boy, or hey, Chris, which is his name, you know. It's rude to say, hey, little white boy, hey, little white girl, because we don't go out saying, hey, little black boy, because that's rude. And that was mainly what her father was saying to Chris and around Star. And like, I felt like Chris should have stood up for himself, be like, hey, I don't find that very kind. You know my name. Please use my name when you're referring to me, and not little white boy, because that is rude when you say that. If you know the person and you know that person's name, then use your name, use their name, you know. So I found that very disrespectful and rude, which annoyed me because Star's father said that a couple of times to Chris and all that. So there was that I was annoyed with. He didn't say it a lot, but like sometimes when he was referring to Chris, because later in the book he found out about Chris and all that. But when he did find out about Chris and like when he was hanging around Chris, he said little white boy, and I'm like, you know his name. Why don't you say his name? Don't be so disrespectful. I find that really rude and disrespectful when you know the person's name and you're just saying, hey little white boy, hey little white girl, or like, hey something, and I'm like, use their name please. That's not very kind of you. Just say little white boy or little white girl or something like that, you know. So that little thing annoyed me about Star's father. But overall, I did enjoy this book, but I was honestly expecting a whole lot more coming out of this book, and I didn't really get my fulfillment of what I really wanted. But yeah, but I'm glad other people really liked it. And it is not educational, but like, this is a good book for other people to know about police brutality and the Black Lives Matter movement and all that. So I think that is a good book to read, I guess. If you want to know, if you want to get like some of an understanding of it, but not really, but yeah. But yeah, so I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. And the last and final book I read this month was The Kill Order by James Dashner. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars as well. This book, it was okay. At times, I felt bored with what was happening. It felt slow-paced, but fast-paced at the same time. Depending on the scenes and what the characters were doing, it was more fast-paced, but like some of it was just slow-paced, and I'm like, okay. I like James Dashner's writing. He has good writing style. And the plot was good because this is a prequel in the Maze Runner series, talking about how the sun flares ruin the earth and what happened before the maze and before Thomas and just when it happened, and like, well, technically I think a year later, but there was flashbacks during what was happening in their like days of the sun flares. So that gave me a better understanding about the cranks, like, and the virus, and how the virus created the cranks later in the books, that Thomas and his friends soon discover. But yeah, so I am glad I did read this book because I was very confused on why people were acting a certain way besides Thomas and some of his friends, and that people were immune to the virus, and that other people weren't. So I'm glad I did read this book, so I got a little bit of a better understanding what the world was like before Thomas entered the maze and before Scourgechild and the Death Crew. So yeah, so I'm glad I did read this book. I really want to read The Fever Code. I think that's what it's called. If I could, I'm mistaken. If not, I'll just put it down here. But if it is, I'll just leave it saying, yeah, it's The Fever Code. But yeah, so I really want to read The Fever Code as well to understand what Wicked really is and what Thomas goes through during Wicked, like at Wicked, before he actually enters the maze. So I really want to read that book as well. So I want to get it one day. But overall, I did enjoy this book. It was a good read for me. So that is it for my October wrap up. If you enjoyed, make sure you give this a big old thumbs up and also subscribe down below to see more of me. And if you enjoy my content, and also you can hit the little bell button right next to the notification, right next to the subscribe button to be notified whenever I do post a new video, so it pops up in your notifications on YouTube or your phone or whatever. And yeah, also comment down below all of the books you read in October. I would love to know. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!